Meet the longtime Republican who led the effort to get Donald Trump off Colorado's ballot.
Hey, that's sort of nice. I'll live forever.
Denver's mayor says he didn't know that the city was misleading people about its homeless initiative until we reported on it. He's promising more transparency. It's just a tree, one of many in the park. But every Christmas, it's covered in messages asking people to hang on.
There's a lot of love in the world. You just sometimes got to look for it.
And there are families desperate for help to stay in their homes this Christmas. So let's keep them home for the holidays and help them find stability in the new year. Tonight on Next. The case out of Colorado that America's still talking about tonight, the one ruling that Donald Trump is an insurrectionist unable to hold office again. That is the case of Anderson versus Griswald. Griswald being the Democratic Secretary of State, the one who puts the names on the primary ballot. And Anderson, I'll let Marshall Zellinger introduce us.
What does it say? It says no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress.
Of all people, Norma Anderson does not need a pocket constitution, but she has one.
What does it mean to me? It means democracy.
As a former Republican state lawmaker, she's well versed in the law of the land.
Engaged in insurrection or rebellion.
Her knowledge of the Constitution helped her be the name and face of Anderson versus Griswold, the lawsuit to disqualify former President Trump from the Colorado primary ballot based on the 14th Amendment, which disqualifies someone for engaging in insurrection after taking an oath to support the Constitution.
I was concerned because of the courage of the courts. I'm sorry.
On Tuesday, the Colorado Supreme Court gave Anderson a win, keeping Trump from the Colorado ballot, pending an appeal to the United States Supreme Court. Colorado's decision is already having a ripple effect on both sides of the country. In Maine, the Secretary of State there has delayed a ruling until next week on 3 challenges to keep Trump off the ballot. In California, the Lieutenant Governor sent this letter to the Secretary of State saying, based on the Colorado Supreme Court ruling in Anderson versus Griswold, I urge you to explore every legal option to remove former President Trump from California's 2024 presidential primary ballot. Anderson's name is now a court case that will be cited repeatedly.
Hey, that's sort of nice. I'll live forever.
The Trump campaign has said it will appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, as will the Colorado GOP, which is led by Trump supporters, who, despite her constitutional knowledge, consider Anderson a rhino, a Republican in name only.
I'm on their Rhino Hall of Shame. And I don't really care because they are not the Republican Party that I was born in, raised in, volunteered, campaigned, and represented.
What are they? Now we wait for an actual appeal to be filed in Anderson versus Griswold. Anderson is not appealing. Griswold's certainly not appealing. But because the Trump campaign and the Colorado Republican Party became what are known as interveners in the case, they are allowed to appeal, and they will be the ones taking us to the United States Supreme Court.
It's always been kind of a weird dynamic because Secretary Griswold's been a spectator in this.
Right.
I think we can assume, based on the things that she said that are very anti-Trump, that she's happy with this ruling, but she's just kind of been on the sidelines throughout.
Oh, right. And it's just... The question I had at the beginning in September is, could she have done this without a lawsuit? Could she have made the determination that he violated the 14th Amendment, thus disqualifying him? But we don't get into that. We didn't get an answer from that because it's just, look, whatever the courts tell me is what I'll do. So I never did get an answer to that. Luckily for her, the courts have said, this is what you can do now. But clearly she would not appeal and be like, actually, I don't think that's the case. So.
Yeah. Griswold doesn't have to go out on a limb because that's what the court decided. Marshall, thank you. The Colorado Republican Party says that if Trump is kicked off the primary ballot here, they will take their ballot and go home, canceling the primary altogether.
We're not going to take this lying down. And if need be, we're going to withdraw from the primary and go to a strict caucus process that would allow our voters to choose Donald Trump if they want.
Hours after the decision came down from the court last night, GOP Chair Dave Williams threatened the party would withdraw from the primary and then let party insiders, delegates, decide who gets Colorado's primary votes. Williams has actually been pushing for this option for months, but he's been unsuccessful in it. The Secretary of State's office said today that the Colorado Republican Party cannot just cancel its primary, and if they attempted to do that, it would go to court. But the Republican Party says if the state holds a primary without Trump on the ballot, they will just ignore the results.
I'm going to notify Jenna Griswold that we don't want to do the primary, so don't send out the ballots. And if she refuses, then we're going to say, okay, fine. We're going to ignore whatever results you cook up because we don't think it's fair as long as Donald Trump's off that ballot. So we will just elect delegates however we want through the caucus at the state assembly on the 6th.
And this is actually an interesting legal question because of the fact that the primary is a party function. It's not a state function. Colorado GOP would need a waiver from the Republican National Committee if they just wanted to send their own delegates to the national convention. Williams says he's filed notice with the RNC, did that months ago as what he called a contingency plan. We're hearing from Denver Mayor Mike Johnston for the first time on the city changing how it measures his House 1000 homelessness initiative. This change is going to allow the city to meet the mayor's goal by the end of the year, because otherwise they would have fallen short already. Because originally the city said that people had to stay sheltered for 14 days in order to count towards the 1,000. We're less than 14 days out now from the end of the year, and the city still needs to get hundreds of people indoors. At last update, the city is counting 607 people towards the mayor's House 1000 goal. That is 607 people moved indoors for any amount of time, not necessarily staying there for 14 days. According to the city's newly reworked dashboard on this, 583 people are still sheltered today. Johnson says the city is no longer waiting 14 days to count people toward the goal, which was the metric described for months. But while the city is taking immediate credit for sheltering all those folks, they're also now offering more transparency in the numbers released publicly on how many people are staying with the program long term and how many eventually make it into permanent housing.
This is actually a more accountable, more rigorous, more transparent system than would have been happening either with a 14-day timeline or a 30-day timeline, because those would have assumed, as the federal regulations do, that after 14 days, if you have an exit, it doesn't matter, that still counts as a success.
So last week, we reported here that city leaders had become aware weeks ago that they had been misinforming the public on how the homelessness numbers were tracked, and yet they didn't say anything when they knew. City spokespeople have chalked it up to internal confusion. When next asked about those changing measures, the mayor's office denied what was happening. Now, the mayor's office tells us that Mayor Johnson himself did not know about the misleading numbers until after we reported on them. There is an underground market in Colorado for transgender care. People turning to unregulated providers so they can avoid the $25,000 to $75,000 bill for transgender care in the medical system. Our Jaleesa Arizari looks at an effort to change that.
At Out Boulder County, during this holiday season, the biggest gift they can give is opportunity.
When it comes to this program, we're going to do our best to make sure people get it.
Lucinia Magic is the trans coordinator at OBC. This year, they're offering a one-time $500 grant for gender-affirming care. It's specifically for trans people of color in northern Colorado.
Our gender identity is also one of the things that we strive to attend to. And being a person of color on top of being trans can be extremely complicated. And so when you have things like the Astra Fund, when you have doctors who understand that it's medically necessary to be able to transition into the person you want to be, it becomes more accessible to be that person.
Accessibility may be a challenge when certain gender-affirming care services can be costly, which leads to some turning elsewhere.
So I definitely have personally known folks who have gone through some black market routes.
A 2020 peer review study from the Annals of Family Medicine shows about 9% of transgender people access hormones from non-licensed sources like friends or online. Jacob Bellender from the Transgender Center of the Rockies has also seen this and worries about the implications.
That process needs to be monitored for a decent amount of time to make sure you're getting your levels of hormones to the goal. So if you're doing that without any guidance, I imagine it's probably very scary, and there's always risks to doing that without any knowledge.
Magic hopes accessibility grows so that the chance to start a needed journey is one gifted to everyone.
Overall, these medically necessary things are all for our ability to be able to live as trans people, regardless of where we're at.
It's important to note that gender-affirming care is not one size fits all. So while the costs vary, so do the services. The Astra grant can go to anything from hormone replacement therapy to speech and voice therapy, or even mental health support.
So what, Jaleesa, even some pharmacies were told, you need to watch what you're doing on this?
Yeah, exactly. The FDA actually issued a warning to 100 pharmacies this past fall, essentially saying, cut it out. Don't do this. This is illegal here. And obviously, it can be incredibly dangerous as well.
Jaleesa Arizari, thank you very much. Denver is making an enormous effort these days to pull people out of homelessness. There are less talked about efforts to keep families from falling into homelessness in the first place. Tonight, we have a chance to keep people home for the holidays. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the nonprofit Growing Home as it works to keep families housed in the North Denver metro area. Growing Home offers rent and mortgage assistance to families facing eviction or foreclosure. But equally important, they offer one-on-one coaching to understand why those families ended up on the brink and to help them build stability. Was it a lost job, a sick kid, a car breaking down, leaving them unable to get to work? Growing Home offers that personalized support tailored to each family's situation. Growing Home likes to say they don't just give them a check and run. They're in it with these families for the long haul, stabilizing their housing situation and then asking, what went wrong? What do you need? How can we help? And that's how you prevent homelessness in our community. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. You have shown that even $5 helps. So as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us started. And by popular request, we're offering a new way to simplify your giving by setting up a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. Put in your information one time, and your monthly donation will be automatically split between all of the nonprofits we feature that month. You use the exact same QR code or text to get there. Growing Home is hearing from 15, 20 families a day who are worried that they'll become homeless soon. This now is our chance to help those at-risk families stay in their homes for the holidays and well into the new year.
You are not alone. Kindness matters. You're a warrior. There's so many positive messages.
They know that grief can weigh extra heavy this time of year, so it's something small, something unexpected to tell people they matter. And Denver moves a step closer to changing when people can come in out of the cold, hopefully saving lives. Next. 60 times between now and spring, Denver estimates that it will be opening its cold weather shelters to bring people in from severe winter weather. City Council, as of today, is a step closer to opening up those shelters more often because housing advocates and medical professionals say people are being left to freeze under the current rules. Today, City Council's Housing and Safety Committee moved along two proposals that would change how the city helps the homeless in cold weather. One would require the city to open warming shelters anytime the temperature goes below freezing. Right now, the city only does it when it goes below 20 degrees. The other proposal would ban encampment sweeps when it's below freezing. Today, advocates and medical professionals said they are often seeing people with severe frostbite, especially when tents and cold weather gear get thrown out during sweeps. Critics on council cited low turnout at the cold weather shelters and questioned whether opening them more often is the best solution. Those proposals now come out of the committee and go before the full council. Hey, Lauren Robinson, it's just a good reminder. Here we sit in warm weather. As everybody's, hoping for cold weather, hoping for snow for Christmas, that for some folks, obviously, that is a nightmare, whereas other folks, it's what they wish for at the holiday time.
That's right. It all depends on where you stand in life. And we do expect some snowflakes just in time for Christmas Eve. There's your warning there. In the meantime, though, we do still have a couple more very warm afternoons ahead. A live look out in Glenwood Springs, a beautiful look here. 48 degrees, though, at DIA. We've had some cloud cover move in. And with winds coming in from the east at around 5 miles per hour, feels closer to 46 degrees out there. Now, we have a large system off the coast of California, and that's just going to churn more weather into Colorado, and that's going to lead some rain and snow showers into New Mexico, and then it's going to continue to lift northward, and this is where we're seeing these very, very spotty light snow showers across a couple of portions of Colorado. One is near the Four Corners region. This is actually where we expected some very light snow showers, but right now off into the foothills and high country just west of Denver, west of Fort Collins, through Red Feather Lakes, Estes Park, Winter Park, and Georgetown. We're going to watch for some more little light flurries for the next through the rest of the evening. Now, they're going to be very light, not widespread at all, but still something to be aware of if you're in those areas. As for the rest of us, we stay dry, cloudy, calm, and pretty mild overnight with those lows near 33 degrees, above average for this time of year. We stay above average as far as our highs are concerned as well, upper 50s both tomorrow and Friday. Saturday, though, right before Christmas is when we're going to see our next system push in. So Saturday afternoon, we're going to watch for some spotty rain showers. By late Saturday, a rain-snow mix. Overnight, as those lows drop below freezing, we're going to watch for more scattered snow showers throughout the day Sunday for Christmas Eve. They linger for the very early morning hours of Christmas morning. After that, highs maxing out in the middle 30s.
There's always room for more love and hope in the world, especially this time of year.
It is not just a Christmas tree, it is Michael's tree. His memory reminds everybody passing by to hold on to hope. Next time you're in Westlands Park in Greenwood Village, Quebec and Orchard, keep an eye out for Michael's tree. At first, it looks like a Christmas tree. Look closer, and you'll see messages of acceptance and belonging and hope. They are there in memory of a man who was loved and who died by suicide.
There's a lot of love in the world. You just sometimes got to look for it.
Oh yeah, there it is.
There's people looking at our tree. Just Michael's tree. That's how we refer to it.
And we decorated in his memory. Yeah, he died by suicide.
I figured.
Yeah. Two of our friends from college, their son died by suicide, and his name is Michael, and he had a great spirit, and unfortunately he wasn't with us long enough.
Now that we've done it for 4 years, when we're setting it up, people will come by and be so happy to see it again.
This is so emotional. I just can't believe how special this is.
We love you, hon.
We love you,
We
is
love
right.
you. Thank you for everything you've done. Well, I'm Julie Davis, and I'm Michael's mom. You girls know every year I cry when I see this tree. It's just so moving and so special, and all the messages on here are just... I want to share all these messages with all these other people.
You matter. Be kind. You are not alone. Kindness matters. You're a warrior. There's so many positive messages.
It's lovely. It's nice. It's a good thing. It's nice to find some light in such darkness.
I so wish that we could hit that rewind button and relay that message to Michael that so many people struggle, and there are so many people that love you and care about you and would do anything to help you through this.
You did good.
Spread the love. That's really our goal.
What a beautiful thing to put into the world. Your feedback is next. The nonprofit Growing Home tells me they used to hear from families like a month or two away from not being able to pay their rent or mortgage to stay in their home. Now they say people are ending up on the brink more quickly. They're reaching out when they are already at the breaking point and facing homelessness. Growing Home helps with immediate stabilization, a check to pay a rent or mortgage, and then they go well beyond that with one-on-one counseling to find out why families have ended up in that situation and to work together to put together a long-term plan of how to build stability in these households, whether it's reskilling for a new job or help with a medical situation or a vehicle, whatever it is that will move them from a path to homelessness to a long-term stable future. Text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 or scan that QR code on your screen to join me in donating to this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign. And Tony writes in to offer an ad hominem attack on the fact that we questioned how the city was tracking homelessness numbers. She says, you sound like a pencil neck, as that's what you want to discuss. And I think this is a vitally important thing that the city is doing, and I also think it's vitally important that everybody's on the same page and is honest about how the numbers are being tracked. Stephanie says, the fact that Trump is being banned from being on the Colorado ballet tells us the system is a fraud. Either that's a typo or I'm picturing like a presidential, like a little